I am mining investor and editor of Resource Stock Digest, Gerardo Del Real, here with my partner, Mr. Nick Hodge, who, as you know, is also an investor and the publisher of Daily Profit Cycle, among many hats that Mr. Hodge wears. This is the 261st episode of our weekly therapy session that we call Investing in Bizarro World, or as Boeing says, flying on our planes. We're going to talk markets. We're going to talk what we're investing in. We're going to talk about some opportunities that we see out there. And we're going to talk about some of the doors that are flying out of the sky and the people that are willing to share information and mysteriously off themselves. But before we get into that, Mr. Hodge, how are you doing today, sir?
Chicken with my head cut off, Gerardo, running around all the things, resource stocks, publishing, kids in swim and tumbling, and gearing up for vacation, actually coming to see you in the total eclipse of the heart here in a couple of weeks. So doing good, looking forward to some 60-degree temps for the first time in a long-ass time. And so give me that vitamin D. How's it going?
Things are great. Everything is awesome. Let's get right into it. I want to get into new all-time highs for gold. Bounce back beautifully from the most recent pullback. I want to get into $4 copper. But let's start with gold. You are the chartist amongst us. Clearly, there is zero resistance right now because we are right near all-time highs. We just did a webinar recently on gold along with Mr. John Carl. That went well. Excited to share that with folks here soon. But thoughts on the gold space and thoughts on the next technical levels for the gold before we get a push towards the 2300 level, which I think is coming.
Well, we said that the technical levels are kind of tough because at all-time highs, there's no precedent to do technical analysis from, right? It's not like you can look at pullback levels and resistance levels and support levels. What I'll say is that gold continues to be strong, even in the face of what we thought was going to be rate cuts, right? And now that might not necessarily be the case. I'm sure you've peeped at least out of the corner of your eye the most recent inflation reports, the CPI and the PCE, and they've gone up for the 3 months in a row, right? So I was actually looking at some charts as I do this week, and if you look at like a 5-year chart, I know that's maybe a random time frame for some, but the U.S. 10-year yield and gold are exactly the same over the past 5 years, and that's sort of counterintuitive. And so you had this disinflation going on where you knew we came from 40-year highs in inflation down to 9% all the way down to around 3%. And gold went up during that time, and now you're having inflation start to back around, and gold is holding steady. And so gold continues to be bullish. I don't know about technical levels off the top of my head, but I like what I see in terms of the ebbs and flows, and especially in the face of the volume, the ETF flows, right? We've seen these outflows in gold, and we've seen these massive inflows in Bitcoin, and yet gold is hanging in there. It's I wonder what it's a harbinger of. Might be a more interesting discussion, and I'm not sure what that is.
I think the fact that the dollar is once again broken higher, right? It was breaking down a bit. It looked like it was headed down closer to the 100 level than the 105 level, but it's at 103.35, the dollar index, and that gold is still sitting at 21.63 as of March the 14th is really impressive to me. Silver is starting to trade or want to trade like a precious metal instead of an industrial metal. That hot inflation print, I'm sure, has contributed to it, but I am really, really curious if silver can start trading like a precious metal. Because if that's the case, there are some opportunities in the precious metal space on the equity side of things that are pretty damn appetizing at current levels. I mean, there's a lot to pick from. Explorers, developers. I have one of my favorite gold companies that I think is due for a permit here in 2024. I think it's going to see significant re-rating. I think it's a company people can make 5, 10, 15 times their money in this gold bull cycle. But I say all that to say that in the silver space, there is also some pretty spectacular opportunities. Dolly Varden Silver is one that I always look to as a takeout target with scale, tons of exploration upside, very competent management and technical team. It checks a lot of boxes for me. I haven't formally recommended it or bought it personally, but it's one that I keep my eye out for every day because if silver breaks out decisively, it's going in the portfolio for sure.
Yeah, I think gold is bullish, even if it goes below 2100 temporarily. There's room for it to pull back there, and then yeah, to the upside, I think you could see a 22 handle, which we haven't got yet. Interesting to watch. Should be the end of the month, right? I mean, we look for those weekly closes and monthly closes, so we'll see how it ends the month of March. Lions and lambs and all that, and lots of money clearly floating around in the alternative sort of currency, alternative asset space, clearly as evidenced by Bitcoin. So, yeah, lots to like, and lots to like on the gold equity space as well. I would echo your sentiments on some things starting to catch a bid, and that obviously, hopefully, bodes well for what's next in these gold stocks, making up some of their disconnect between the price of gold and then the price of the equities.
Agreed. I got to shout out two companies from that one of my favorite people in the resource space overseas, right? He's executive chairman of both, and that's Hannon Metals, which is up 50% this past week. We're going to talk $4 copper here in just a second, but everyone should know by now that Hannon is my second biggest position next to Patriot Battery Metals, and I will be buying aggressively. And honestly, I'm not too happy about the 50% move higher this past week, because it means I likely will have to pay more for my next large purchase of shares, which probably will happen here in the next couple of months. But kudos to Hannon for putting in a 50% higher 7-day period here. And then Mawson Gold and Southern Cross Gold. Mawson owns 51% of Southern Cross Gold, which owns 100% of the Sunday Creek project in Victoria, Australia. That's up over 100% in the past 30 days, up 150% over the past couple of months. And I think they absolutely have a tiger by the tail with the project there. I think the grades are getting better at depth, and I think they know exactly where to go turn that drill bit. I'm excited for the next set of assays. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. We talked about it last week. It keeps shooting higher. Wouldn't be surprised to see Mawson trade in dollars instead of cents very, very soon.
I want to talk about copper. When you mentioned Hannon, it's worth talking about copper. I guess I'll pound my own chest and say that I told you so. And copper was going to break out, or at least was getting bullish. I wrote that in Foundational Profits in the March issue. We talked about that last week in the podcast. And I've been pretty neutral on copper for a while. And here we go. We've got a $4 handle on copper over the past week since we started saying that. I think that's interesting, right? We continue to hear a lot about the wealth inequality. Some have weakness in the yeah, no doubt. For the lower end of the consumer spectrum, retail sales sort of soft, and yet globally, things starting to improve. I think what we miss myopically as Americans is that there was a lot of trouble in the rest of the world in the past year. We were obviously I was making recession calls here in the U.S., but things were really bad elsewhere. I mean, technically bad, double consecutive quarters of negative growth, recessions in other countries, big ones, Germany, Japan, et cetera. So that sort of now has passed. And even China, I was saying, is going to open up. And that was sort of my rationale for saying copper was going to go up. And I think you're going to continue to see that. So better than anyone that lithium prices are starting to recover as well. And that's congruent with what's happening in copper and some other commodities. So a lot to like in the commodity space. And again, with my salesman hat on, we're hosting a webinar about that on March 28th. You'll be able to sign up for that starting this week. We will make sure you see it. We will get a link in the description of these podcasts, and you'll be able to sign up to watch. Well, we're calling phase 2. It's worth noting that Ms. Yellen was just apologizing for calling inflation transitory, right? We were telling you the whole time it wasn't transitory. That was a kickoff of a new commodity supercycle. You, of course, can remember all the memes about lumber and aluminum and things. And then in 2022 and 23, those pulled back as we expected that softness that I was just talking about in the economy. But that was just a consolidation in a supercycle. And we are firmly ready for the next leg up. Copper is telling you as much as the doctors. So that's where we're going to host a webinar about why phase 2 of the commodity supercycle is here. The commodities specifically that you're going to outline to benefit from that. And then one stock to play each of those commodities. That's sort of the whole theme of the event we're putting together. So anyway, I yield my time.
Oh, look, I'm excited for copper. I'm bullish for copper. I think copper is going to do for us profit wise, what lithium did for us during that first and technically the second leg higher, right? We were involved with companies in 2016 that were taken out. You had one for quadruple digit gains. I had a couple of triple digit gains. Then we had the pullback. And again, then we had the second leg up here. And don't have to tell anybody about the run that Patriot's been on that finally looks like it's getting its mojo back. It, printed a 5 handle not too long ago. And here it is flirting with the $9 level. And I think it's headed, higher here in short order. Obviously, the big driver right now is the macro backdrop, improving sentiment. The lithium price is up some 21%, the spot price over the past 2 weeks. Clearly, the stock, along with the entire sector, was correlated highly, if not, almost perfectly with the lithium spot price. I think China's back to buying. I think the low cost, low quality as well, lithium that was being sent out from Africa was, again, low quality. And I think that's being depleted. And look, Pilbara just had an auction or announced an auction to sell some 5,000 tons. And before the auction could happen, somebody stepped in and said, hey, we'll pay you $1,200. Spot price right now is $1,000. And said, yeah, we'll take the 20% premium. Here you go. No auction necessary. So a lot of interesting things happening in the lithium space. Albemarle just announced that not only would it be conducting auctions, but it would be conducting auctions not just for the actual lithium, but a bunch of its other products as well. And so, again, we know about the MOU with Patriot. We know that timeline is shortening. The timeline's actually consummated deal. We know that we're waiting for assays from CB9. Could have another major discovery there. The infill drilling continues to connect the blobs, which I continue to insist are all connected underneath, kind of like a case of eggs is how Jody DeRouche described it. Gentleman that's much smarter than I, especially when it comes to the geology of things, and also somebody that's been out there drilling the heck out of that thing. Gleefully, I should add. So
the 18, the Costco pack, not the dozen, the big one from Costco.
There you go. Tell him, Nick. Tell him. So no, look, a lot to like with Patriot. Love to see it at the levels that it's at. I think we'll be back in double digits here soon. Fingers crossed, right? Hopefully we're not jinxing that. But again, you're up 26% in a month. And so, for a couple of weeks there, it looked really, really ugly. Like it could break to a 4 handle. Great to see it back at a 9.
Yeah, not just us saying it either. Bloomberg had an article out this week, lithium stocks perking back up. And I turned on the Bloomberg while I was heating up my lunch earlier today before we recorded this. And they were talking about Lithium Americas. So, people are noticing.
Look, Lithium Americas, it's worth talking about. We have been, I think, pretty adamant about saying that there really should be different price mechanisms, right? The lithium that is bought and sold in and out of China is very different than North American lithium, and the premiums that I think North American lithium is going to command here in the not too distant future. And so it was really, really encouraging to see the government providing a $2.6 billion loan for the Thacker Pass project in Nevada. So a lot happening behind the scenes, a lot of positive indicators and green shoots. I hate that term, but it applies here. Let's see if it's sustainable. I suspect it is. We'll know soon. We're either going to get a continued breakout or we're going to get another little pullback here. But it's looking much better than it was a couple of weeks ago, for sure.
A lot of Me Too companies probably breathing a sigh of relief as well. All those companies who jumped on lithium and changed their name. I know they were sweating during VRIC time and this past sort of lithium winter, like, oh shit, what did we do? They're probably like, oh God, thank God.
Well, listen, let me be honest. I mean, I wrote a couple of $100,000 worth of checks to private lithium companies that haven't gone public yet. And I was looking at some of those checks and some of those certificates and going, man, are we ever going to be able to go public, right? If this continues, that money might be quantum money heaven. So one company, which one I'm talking about, I'm not going to disclose it here because it's not public yet, but a company with amazing assets that will go public soon. But, we're on the hook for another round of financing, right? We got in on the seed round. We got another round coming. And so I frankly was not looking forward to doing that with the sentiment that we had a month ago. I am enthused about writing another check for that company with everything that I see developing in the sector. And so it's timely for sure.
I freed my cash up this week to do so.
There you go. We got to talk uranium. Oh my God, $85. Oh my God. I'm going to make it short. I'm going to say the same thing that I said when it dropped to $90 and $95. Healthy correction, y'all. Healthy pullback. Can't have $110 spot price when the long-term contracting price is somewhere between $75 and $85, right? I think that's probably the new floor for uranium, the $75, $85 range. Can it ebb and flow a little bit? Absolutely. The next set of highs, I think 130, 140-ish, and I think we get there in relatively short order. I think we see that here in 2024. So I think it's a healthy correction. I think it's a heck of an opportunity. We just put a trade on in Junior Resource Speculator that we made some 83% in 3 months, got out of it, sold at the high, and then now got back into it after a 40% drop. And I think we're going to be able to turn 80% to 100% profits in short order once again. So I say that to say there's opportunities out there if you're active, if you're busy, and pullbacks are opportunities. I say this all the time, and I know I sound like a broken record. Use big tailwinds and super cycles to your favor when you get a pullback within a sector that you know has robust fundamentals, right? We can look at copper mid to long-term fundamentals and know where that's going. We can look at lithium demand and know where that's going, especially the North American lithium, that supply chain that is going to be built out pretty aggressively over the next couple of years. I could go on, right? I could continue with uranium. It's the exact same thing. So all those pullbacks should be opportunities that you use. And to your point, Nick, you can't do that if you don't keep some cash on the sidelines. So good on you for keeping the finger on the trigger and the eye on the scope.
Yeah, there were some quotes that were going around today. I'm scrolling frantically trying to find them from the Cameco CEO. I'm not going to find them in time, but I remember most of what he was saying. Essentially, the spot market is not the term market, is what he was saying. He mentioned the $85 handle, or $85 price, which was, could have been just a one-time blip. He was saying it could have been some financial player that was, putting some pounds on the spot market. But nonetheless, the term market is still really, really tight and still really, really early in the contracting cycle. And basically saying what you were saying. I pull back on the sector. We're still, early in this thing. And then I would look at the ETFs, which I do. So, and I was saying they were a pullback at sort of a technical correction levels, and they continue to consolidate there, right? So, they are at that low end of the correction. They did pull back, and they continue to sort of consolidate around there. And I think that's why you get those emotional responses. My stocks are down. Well, they're just sort of bouncing around that low end of corrective territory. Even today, that's what I was pulling up. I wanted to see where URA closed it. It sort of closed right at that support line around $27, I would call it. So if it would have broken down below that, I would start to get worried, but it bounced there. It pulled back there in January, second trading day of the year, ran up, pulled back there in February, bounced up, and now it's back there again. So not too worried about the uranium space. And plenty of uranium stocks in the portfolio, juniors, drillers, prospect generators. And now I use these pullbacks to buy sort of these ETFs and use them as trading vehicles. So lots of things to do inside of the bull market.
You mentioned pullbacks, and because I have the sense of humor of a 12-year-old, I have to read to you my favorite headline of the day today. And so my favorite headline of the day today is Pornhub pulls out of Texas. And so, of course, I had to click on the article, right? Because anytime I see a funny-ass headline like Pornhub pulled out of Texas, I most absolutely have to see what that's about. And so apparently, if you are in the great state of Texas, as I am right now, and I go to Pornhub to get a daily dose of porn action, as many in Texas do, apparently there's a message there that basically says that Pornhub will no longer be have an active website in Texas due to a bill that passed here last year, requiring the individual websites, to verify the age of the user because of the nature of the content. And so I find it interesting that that is the approach Pornhub has taken. Pornhub's stance is that the onus should be on the manufacturer of the devices, not so much so the content creators, which I think, I don't know how to feel about that, but curious to see where that goes. I know it sounded like a funny headline, but it actually has some interesting, it could be a prelude to a big court battle that has some interesting ramifications for many, many companies and the way they distribute their content, because in this case, it's pornography, but it can extend to violence. It could extend to language. It could extend to a host of other things, right? I mean, you aren't required to verify your age on an individual website level if you go see a jiu-jitsu match on YouTube. Despite the fact somebody's getting their head knocked off, you're not required to verify your age on certain other platforms. But then there are platforms where, if it's adult-themed content, they do require a login, or at least for you to say that you're 18 years old in order to access the content. So, interesting. Any thoughts on that either way?
Yeah, thoughts, and I'll parlay it into a broader discussion. In other states, I believe, have done this. I think in New Orleans, you have to age verify when you go to a pornographic website. And I think Pornhub is still in that market. So I wonder why they chose to not pull out of New Orleans and to pull out of Texas. You obviously have to age verify on brewery websites, liquor websites, cannabis websites, although it's been easier, I will say. So I'm not sure if that's legislation behind that, or that's just the industry trying to make it easier. You used to have to enter, your actual birth date, scroll through the years, or type it in. Now you just say, yes, I'm 21, and you're on your way. I imagine that's how it would go with the pornography as well. As far as the regulation of the content, that's a broader discussion, right? And it's worth mentioning TikTok, because that's going around right now as a touch point of conversation. And nothing new here, right? I mean, you think back to Twitter and all the things we know because of Matt Taibbi and then the U.S. government, requesting that information gets suppressed on that platform about the pandemic. And some of the stuff that turned out to be not incorrect, right?
Correct.
It was actually true stuff.
Yeah.
And so then I also think back to the Russia stuff and the interference, and it's just, it sort of seems like, these people want control of the information. They're not necessarily trying to protect you. I'm not sure if that's my libertarian gut talking or not, but, Rand Paul has maybe been increasingly off the rails over the past few years, but, I agree with him. And, Justin Amash, who's actually running for Senate, good to see that. And then in the state of Michigan, they're pretty steadfast in their belief that, let TikTok operate. This is in the realm of the free speech, the First Amendment, right? And that's how I sort of come down on it as well. It's just interesting. What was somebody saying today? It was actually Tucker. I watch all the people, right? All the way on the left, all the way on the right. And you said it's funny how these, this establishment who outsourced, your jobs and your manufacturing to China, to kowtow to China over the years, now they want to protect you from China, right? It seems just like the new Russia to me. And I have a memory still, thank goodness. And I remember the Russiagate, and Russia was interfering. And so I don't know what's going to happen with TikTok, but I do know that we shouldn't be banning platforms or interfering with free speech, despite how dumb some of those investment accounts might be on TikTok. And I want to talk about that too, but that's probably a topic for another day. I don't know your thoughts on TikTok and free speech, etc. But that's just my thoughts, I guess.
I'm going to age myself. I've never been on TikTok.
I've never been on the TikTok. I mean, I've seen a TikTok video, but I don't have an account, and I don't go to TikTok or anything.
No, and so I'm impartial, but I am a big proponent of freedom of speech. I've always said, look, if you want to tell me that you don't like Mexicans, you have every right to tell me you don't like Mexicans. And if you get a little too close to me, or I think if there's a threat of violence, I'm probably going to do something to you that you're not going to like. And it probably won't end well. But, as far as freedom of speech goes, hey, you don't like Mexicans, you don't like Mexicans. You don't like short people, you don't like short people. You have every right to say whatever the heck you want to say. I would hope that we can get to a point one day where we're just civil and, all of that. But it's 2024. We're definitely not there yet. But it is a slippery slope when you start banning ideas and speech. And then, I'll take the conversation a step further, and books. Because you don't like some of the content, and that can go in a whole another direction. So I'm on freedom. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Nick.
I think about spying too. I think it was an Onion or a Babylon. I get them confused now as I scroll, but it was basically the establishment's upset that TikTok is spying on you because that's their job.
That's funny. That's funny. And to that point, the law as it's being proposed. Just says TikTok can go ahead and remain what TikTok is. We don't have a problem with that. We just want it to be American owned.
And then I'll give you this. Yeah. Well, you see who stepped up to put a group of investors together? This is Steve Mnuchin, right? The former whatever he was, Treasury Secretary, I guess. Stepped up to put an investor group together, right? It's not because it's a bad asset. I mean, they want to own the thing. Quick, I was just going to give you the Snowden take. And that take is that, you should be having a broader discussion about privacy and online safety and addictiveness and how it affects kids, et cetera. That's not TikTok based, right? That includes all the things, right? The Metas, the X's, the Instas, et cetera. Because there is, something there that's affecting teens and culture and loneliness. I mean, I read those studies. So anyway, there's a broader discussion to be had, but this, pointing at myopia on China or Russia in a single site, that ain't it.
I absolutely agree. It's been a good discussion on copper and lithium and gold and silver and the opportunities out there. I would say we have to talk a bit about Boeing, and I don't want to make it long. It's really short. I just think that Boeing has a record of criminal liability where it's able to buy its way through the payment of large sums of money called fines. It's been able to buy its way out of a lot of trouble over the years. And so call me this is the foil tin hat conspiracy theorist in me maybe, but I absolutely am not above saying that it's a bit suspicious to me that the whistleblower that was in the third day of a deposition exposing some of the quality issues at Boeing behind the scenes and how aware the company's been. We've got doors flying off and planes crashing all over the place. And I don't think it's a far stretch to say that I find it really suspicious that this guy decided to write a note, go to a hotel, sit in his truck and pop his head off. Yeah, I don't know. I have a vacation coming up soon, and I'm looking at the plane that I'm flying on to see if it's a Boeing, because damn, it's been a tough couple of years for that company.
I'll give you another headline from the the satirical media, and it was something to the effect of Boeing announces that it's fixed. It's finally fixed its malfunctioning whistleblower. Right? I mean,
I saw that. I think perfect. I retweeted it. It was gold. And again, funny, not funny, but man, rest in peace to that gentleman and condolences to his family. But again,
and what I will say, this is America and the system is the system. And so I'm looking at the Boeing chart and it's fallen from 270 to 180. It's got support at 180. I would expect to see it bounce off this 180 level if you want your free technical analysis for Bizarro World this week.
You kind of described Boeing's last couple of years and its planes. It's falling and bouncing and fucking doing everything but flying the way that it's supposed to fly and getting you there the way that the company is supposed to get you there. Again, I understand it's not every flight. I understand it's a small amount of flights, but I also understand that the amount of fines that company has incurred over the years, it's hundreds and hundreds of huge fines that screams neglect. And so hopefully they get that ship sailing in the right direction over there. And
who doesn't get to pay fines and move on? This is partly what I founded an entire newsletter division about, and I hear that division may be changing hands. But manipulating LIBOR, you get a fine. Rigging the price of chicken, colluding to fix the price of chicken, you pay a fine and you move on. I mean, that's sort of the way you do business in the U.S. these days. And I know we want to wrap it up, but yeah, that's part of the problem. That's part of the fourth turning. That's part of the reason that people are disenfranchised with the system is that, these corporations get to call all the shots and they have that revolving door of executives and government oversight where the people go from the C-suite to the Pentagon and around and around and around. And so, yeah, not surprised at all, unfortunately, that he was Epstein or Clinton or whatever.
Yeah. Well, listen, for free daily content that is not biased, is impartial, and covers a broad swath of subjects, everything from crypto to cannabis to pharmaceutical stocks to resource stocks, go to dailyprofitcycle.com/subscribe to get those daily thoughts and words from our talented group of editors straight to your inbox. Mr. Hodge, what are you watching this week?
Oh, gosh, I'm getting ready for vacation. What am I watching in the markets? Oil is starting to perk up. You've got summer driving season coming, and it's close to $80. Crypto, I think, is also interesting. That's probably a really good answer. You had a pullback in the crypto space as well. Bitcoin back to 70 or 69 that I saw before we recorded this. That's been an exciting space. We've got more to come for you on there. Chris Curl is doing really well with that portfolio. He's sending me screenshots of how much it was worth this week. The halving is coming up. It's scheduled for somewhere between April 18th and April 20th. And so, same way I'm using the pullbacks in uranium and have been doing the same things in my personal account with some of these Bitcoin ETFs, et cetera. So I'm watching that crypto space, and some of those coins are hilarious. We'll have to talk about those, the Joe Biden and the Elizabeth Warren. I mean, they get funny.
Don't let me, or do not allow me to name my own coins. I hope I never become technically savvy or technologically savvy enough to create coins that I can name. God, that would be a dream job, just a dream hobby of mine, Nick. I would savor it at the thought of being able to name my own coins. The Nancy Reagan throat Bitcoin. Can you imagine being able to buy a Nancy Reagan throat goat coin?
Oh, that's funny.
Anyhow, that's just the first one that came to mind. That is all I got this week. What am I watching for? I'm watching for assay results from CB9, which are way overdue in my mind from Patriot Battery Metals. I'm watching for Southern Cross Gold and Mawson to report more assays from that Sunday Creek project. Some spectacular intercepts. I'm watching for Ann Metals. Y'all quit buying Ann Metals. I'm not done. So quit running the price up, whoever you are out there. But no, look, Ann is my favorite copper, gold, silver play at current levels. And I think everybody's pretty aware of what I think it can do. So I think it'll get on a Patriot-like run here soon, soon-ish, sometime in 2024. We'll keep that one, the timing of that quiet, because we have some things to do there. But that's what I'm watching. I hope it's been a useful podcast for everybody out there. Always fun. Any parting words, Mr. Hodge?
No, that's it. Have a great week. Hopefully it's getting sunny and warmer where you are, and keep your finger on the pulse of things, because it's a wonky, bizarro world and market out there.
Yes, it is. I'm Gerardo Del Real along with Mr. Nick Hodge. This was the 261st episode of our weekly therapy session that we call Investing in Bizarro World. Keep safe out there, y'all.
See you.
Hey there, you independent-minded investor. If you like this video, make sure to tell us so by clicking the like button below. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss another one. And share it with everyone you know on social media. You can also click the link in the description below to check out more information-packed videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.